Hey, what's going on, Archons? Welcome to another weekly Key Thoughts episode. Decided to switch up the setting today, trying to do things a little bit differently, kind of get stagnant in some things, but here we are. And I got my man FG with me, of course. So today I wanted to actually spend some time talking about revisiting previous old decks. And I got to do that last night with my buddy. We played a little IRL, again looking for these tight matchups that are fun in a more casual setting. Didn't quite get there, but it wasn't a bad matchup either. It was really interesting the way it went. We played best of three, and he ended up taking it 2-1. And I played a deck that was an AOA deck. Not only an AOA deck, but my very first AOA deck that I got in Hawaii when the release happened, which is kind of wild to think about now. It's basically like a year and a half ago, and we have doubled the amount of KeyForge sets we have since then, which is really interesting to think about. And I was just thinking about this deck because honestly, I was like, oh, this deck kind of is trash and I'm never going to play it, but it's my first AOA deck, so it does have that kind of special asterisk to it, which makes me want to keep trying it out. And now, upon revisiting it, as I think I mentioned last week, you have different perspective as you gain more experience with the game and you start to notice things a little bit differently. So this was one of those times where I actually noticed a difference with the deck. Well, first off, it had a couple really sick combos in it. One of them being obviously Binary Rupture and Interdimensional Graft, sick one. Had a ridiculous amount of archiving that was amazing, and recursion through the archives. Had 2 ZYX researchers, had 2 lab works, a sloppy lab work, and a Stutterkin, but there weren't a lot of Logos creatures, so it wasn't really like you're getting to use the Stutterkin. But what it had was also Mars and Untamed. And the cool thing about the Mars was it had pretty much the only Ember control in the deck, which was Mars needs Ember. And it just so happened that it had a Carpet Flotsam and a Glixel Proliferator. So this created this interesting thing where I could actually Carpet Flotsam my opponent's board, and then Mars needs Ember, and then if I can get that Proliferator to stick around, I could then start recurring that, or next turn do the sequence so that I could even just go boom, ZYX, archive the Mars needs Ember, and have it again, and just repeat that, which was a lot of fun to pull off when it worked. The Mars board was pretty strong. It also had a full moon, which was really nice, and a Darna, which actually worked really well. The whole Mars needs Ember, Carpet Flotsam, and then going into a Darna the following turn was pretty tits, I must say. It worked really, really well. It was a good burst. That was the cool thing about the deck. It could do really cool bursts, but you're in no way trying to stop your opponent from forging, basically. You basically had maybe once or twice you're going to pull out a key and stop that from happening, but you were never really going to stop your opponent. So it was an interesting way to understand, again, how the deck played. I found it such a unique experience to revisit it, and my skill level had increased since when I first started analyzing the deck, A, and B, really taking the time to play it, because I don't think in most arenas on TCO it's gonna come out on top. But now that we have this whole scaling Ember and lack of control in it, because of mass mutation and people jamming mass mutations, it actually made the Binary Rupture Interdimensional Graft play really strong, because I knew once I did that and took that Ember, if I let my opponent go way up, it could be really potent and they couldn't do anything about it. So it was just interesting to see this meta shift and how some of these decks, have new life in a different light, so to speak. And lastly, the Untamed suite did have a Dusk Witch in it, which was a lot of fun. When you have a Sky Booster squadron, you can just get some fun stuff going there. Unfortunately, again, I think that Dusk Witch has lost some potency because of the damage pip factor. Things that only have 1 health just can fall so much more easily with these damage pips, and the deck I was going against had a Maleficorn. So not only was it a 1, but it was a 2 damage pip, or 2 damage was getting done with one of those damage pips. And unfortunately, there was a lot of creatures in the deck that had 2 health, so it didn't really work that great in that regards. But it was fun seeing these Darna bursts, had a full moon in it as well. So with the Logos archiving, I was able to just put stuff away, then have these really fun turns in Untamed or Mars, which I was really enjoying. It was quite a neat little process there that could be done. And then it also had a couple of Vezima Think drones in it, which means those ZYX researchers, Darna, things like that could then be put back into the archives from it, and then pulled out again to recur the effect, which I really enjoyed. So the deck, like I said, not top tier, but it has a really fun new lease on life for me, just seeing all the things that happen. And it just makes me realize like how many other decks in my collection have this incredible fun factor. And then you put that versus the fact that how many decks do you have that are really top tier and you want to put the time in. And I'm finding there's this balance you need of having either time spent on competitive decks and really figuring the ins and outs and enjoying that level of competitive play and being able to dominate a game, versus what is the really fun factor of KeyForge that exists that you want to utilize and play more often and just have as something as part of the game. And I think both are very valid points. The only difference is time, because how much time do you have to invest in A, the fun decks, versus B, the competitive decks you want to play. Now, being in a time where we're not playing these high level tournaments, maybe it's time to visit those fun decks in a different capacity a little bit more. So yeah, that's the thoughts for this week. I really enjoyed revisiting this deck because I kind of wrote it off. I was like, this deck is just like, it's not going to cut the mustard. But there was a level of fun, and it has tricks and combos that are great. And I think that is indicative of AOA. AOA, I can honestly say, I think is the most fun set that has come out. The fun factor in AOA is undeniable. It did some really cool things in a way that we have not seen. But the problem is that I think the general aspect of Ember control was lacking in that set. And this isn't some revolutionary concept, but that is the only reason why I think is each house having a few pieces that created the ability to take your opponent off check and control Ember. Not having that in every house hurt the set as a whole. We all know this, but I'm really noticing it now. But the cool thing is discovering ways to utilize these decks so that even though that doesn't exist, you understand how it works to still do it and have some success with it. And it's not going to be, your top tier as a result, like I said. But I mean, do not overlook your AOA collection. The fun factor in that set is undeniable. So spend some time with it. Arrange games with friends. I'm finding now more so I really don't want to play decks against one another in the same set. I'm really enjoying the cross set play now. That is my new kick that I'm on. And so when I'm playing with my friend, I don't think I'm ever going to be going one set versus the other unless it's a really sick matchup that I've discovered through playing those games. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you on my stream tonight at 6 p.m. I'm not sure I'm going to jam. Maybe it'll be an AOA night. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a Mass Mutation, AOA, Worlds Collide, Coda, do the whole shebang. But it's going to be fun, and I'm going to be revisiting some stuff that I have overlooked. So as always, everyone, may your Ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.